Hello, this is Jack Christian, your host, and this is the newly titled Diary of a Nail Who Sticks Out. So I'll go into a little bit more about why I wanted to change the name. It's something I've been wanting. It's like I never wanted it to stay just like the Jack Christian podcast, but I wanted to start off by just getting into the habit of recording, and then kind of like when I figure out what it is I'm actually trying to do here, kind of like develop an idea of like what to call it, kind of as we go and slightly more organically than trying to plan things. That's kind of like the way I like to do things. I don't know if it's the best way, but I'm not a great planner. I'm someone who I like to like create theories, test them, and iterate. I like to do things that way. That's how I kind of like form ideas, essentially. What's it called? It's fucking trial and improvement. That's how I like to do things. I'm not a great planner. I've been helping someone move house recently, and honestly I find them so frustrating because so they like meticulously plan everything. Like they when they're packing up the lorry. So I'm just there to do heavy lifting. So I'm not really involved in like the planning really. But they're meticulous. They measure everything, and they measure the van, and they treat loading the van like a game of Tetris. And I find it so frustrating. Whereas whenever I've moved house in the past, I will I just fucking chuck stuff in the back, and then like if something's falling out, then I'll reposition it. But I'm not as meticulous as some people out there, and that probably isn't a great reflection on me. If anyone listens to this who happens to want to work with me in the future, that I'm not saying that my work, like if I'm building a website, it's not like I just fucking like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Like I do have a process of how I do things, and I mean I've written about it on my website. So if you want to understand that, go to my website, jackchristian.uk, jackchristian.com.au now as well. I figured since I moved to Australia, I should probably have an Australian domain. But yeah, so to get into what like the whole idea behind the new name is, essentially, I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but so the name of the podcast is now The Diary of a Nail Who Sticks Out, and there's a kind of blurb on this in the show description, but there's this saying in Japan, I think, at least that's where I got it from. Well, I've not actually been to Japan, but I saw an interview with someone from Japan. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the point. The nail that sticks out gets the hammer. And all my life, I've been a nail that didn't want to stick out. I wanted to keep my head down and stay unnoticed. But more and more, especially the last few years, and more so than ever now, I realise how important it is that for me to achieve the kind of targets that I want to achieve, I need to stand up and stick my neck out a little bit more, well, a lot more. So I mean, like if we just like look at what I'm trying to do by starting out as a freelancer in a new country, I don't know anyone here. I have no connection to go on. I've got very little like network. So I can't be someone who just kind of like stays in my comfort zone. I have to, and I'm going to go into this a bit more in this episode, so it's kind of relevant that I do it with this episode, this whole rename. But yeah, I realise now that I really need to go and like put myself out there, and like I can't just wait for things to come to me. I have to go and chase them down. It's like one of my favourite movies is The Departed, and Jack Nicholson's character Frank Costello, right at the start, has this whole monologue. And I first watched that movie when I was like 15, and that line like sticks in my head, is that no one gives you anything in this world. You have to go and take it. And I've always loved that line. I love that character. I mean, it's a bit of a, like, he's the bad guy and he's not a good guy, but I mean, Jack Nicholson's just so he's Jack Nicholson, isn't he? So any character he has, you click with him, and he's so good at playing like a crazy bad guy like that. Anyway, I'm really rambling here. So yeah, that's the idea behind this podcast now, is that I want to share the story of share the story of what I'm doing, and kind of like give some insight into how I feel behind it, and what each kind of like each episode is kind of built around me just telling a little bit, like a new part of that story. And it's the premise now is like, I want to share what I'm doing, and every part of everything that I'm trying to get this freelancing stuff off the ground, which is frustratingly slow, and it's really hard at some things I just find really easy, some things I find really hard, and I talk about all that in all my episodes, and there'll be more to come. But the point is, I'm now trying to be more of a nail that risks getting hammered, if that makes sense. I sum this up much better in like 2 sentences in the show description, and it doesn't take me 8 minutes to talk about, so I apologise for wasting that time, but hey, there we go. I won't do it again. Or at least I won't spend 8 minutes on it. So this week what I want to talk about is, it's not been an easy week for me. I think it's not an easy thing for me to talk about either. But I think it is really important, given the nature of what I'm doing, and I'm sure other people in my position probably go through similar things themselves. So I do want to talk about it, and it's loneliness and isolation. And I'm going to go a bit. I'm just going to riff around that. Really, I've got like some bullet points as usual, but I'm going to try and talk as naturally and honestly as possible. So, I talk about it in previous episodes a bit, but I'm not. And I mean, I just spent 8 minutes talking about it, but I'm not someone who loves being like center of attention. I like being on my own. I like spending time on my own. Growing up, like I grew up with 4 siblings, but we were all kind of like. So like up until the age of 13, I lived like an hour's drive from all my friends on a farm, like in the middle of the countryside. I didn't socialise that often outside of school, and then my siblings were like either side of me. So one sibling is 3 years older than me, and one sibling is 5 years younger than me, and then there's two other older siblings. So it's not like I really socialised that much growing up, and I just used to like hang out on my own, play on my own, just play football on my own. So I've always been somewhat capable. Like, I love spending time on my own. That's how I operate best. That's why I think I'm quite good as a freelancer, because I can, when I'm working just alone in a room, just me and a laptop, that's when I'm flying. I love doing that. That's so easy for me. That's the easiest part of my job, is doing the work. Everything around that, networking, like sales calls, client calls, and anything that's kind of more relational and social, are parts that I really struggle with. So I think it's kind of a natural inclination. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I just drank a load of coffee way too fast. Anyway, you don't need to know that. I think as people, our natural inclination is to kind of go towards what's comfortable. And for me, that is kind of isolating myself and just kind of doing stuff on my own. Which works so well for me in so many ways. I think Simon Sinek says something which I think is kind of like really poignant. And the difference between introverts and extroverts is like both need social interaction and both need time on their own. The difference is an extrovert will spend time on their own, and that will kind of emotionally exhaust them, and they will recharge their emotions with social interaction. So they kind of draw their energy from social interaction, whereas an introvert will do the opposite. So they will spend time socializing, but that will drain their kind of energy, and then they need to go and spend time on their own to recharge. And I am definitely more on that introverted end of the spectrum. I mean, it's different in different scenarios, there's more nuance to it, but by and large I would fully describe myself as an introvert. I feel like I really do recharge from being on my own. So that being said, moving to a new country, like I do know, like my girlfriend is Australian. That's the reason I moved out here. So I do know people here, but the way I've kind of set my life up in this first 6 months has led to a great deal of isolation, which I like, but just this last week, well, it's been building up for a few weeks, but this last week especially, I've really started to feel a lot of loneliness creeping in, and I'm now taking steps to kind of like push back against that isolation, because I feel like I'm not getting enough social interaction, and I'm not, especially with everything that I'm trying to accomplish. I need that network. I need that connection. So that's where I'm at. So we can go a bit more into that. So I mean, I talked about like the last week. I've been to a few social events. They're just like, because like the people that I've hung out with, obviously, like I said, my girlfriend is already over here, so I've come out here and I spent a lot of time with her, which is kind of like, that's kind of like fulfilled kind of like my social quota, if you will, and the comfort of having that has meant that I've not felt the kind of like the need to go and seek more, because I can just hang out with her and that's fine. And then like the last like couple weeks, like the last 6 months since I've been here, like when I've hung out in larger groups, it's been with her friends, and they're all lovely people, but I don't feel like that I have a huge amount in common with what I'm trying to do with my life at the moment. I don't know if there's a huge amount of commonality with them. I've certainly not talked about it with them, and we've hung out several times, and I don't think it's there. So I think that's kind of like, as things are kind of like getting hard for me now, I don't feel like I have people that I can talk to about it that can kind of engage and understand the things that I'm going through. So I mean, like, what am I doing at the moment? So like the two main kind of goals that I'm working on at the moment are, obviously, you know full well what I'm trying to do, building up, well, just starting the freelance stuff, and building an income that way. I think I've chosen to take a kind of slower route, and I don't want to rush into stuff. I want to play the long game and try and put like real strong foundations in place, so that down the line I feel like I'm in a good place. Because like back home in the UK, I just took what I could get, and took what was given to me. Whereas like I want to kind of reverse that now. So I'm playing a longer game where I'm really kind of trying to nail down who it is I'm trying to serve, and what it is I can do for those people, and then just going after that. I think that's going to take longer for me to put that in place. So for the time being, I'm still doing little bits of like ongoing work for UK clients, which gives me the income to be able to do that, or cash flow if you want to use a more fancy term. So anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. I need to stop rambling, man. This isn't Chris Williamson. Anyway, I don't even listen to him. Where was I? So yeah, I think I'm going to go back quite far now. So in terms of like the other goal that I'm going for at the moment is I'm training for a marathon. So to anyone who has done that, you just spend a lot of time running on your own. So like I'm running like 50 kilometers a week at the moment, and that takes up like a lot of time. So yeah, there's that. And I don't have any kind of like back home. I had like some friends that ran their own businesses or were doing similar stuff to me, and I had that kind of like, I could go and talk to them about it, and they could talk to me about it, and we had that kind of back and forth. Over here, I don't, and that's kind of like the hole I'm looking to fill. I think that's the reason why I'm feeling very isolated and alone at the moment, is because I'm lacking connection with people that are dealing with similar things to me. So that's kind of, so in terms of, that's the problem that I'm trying to solve. So the solution that I found is I've gone to meetup.com, which is a great site. Lots of people like create little like social groups for people with different interests and to go and meet. So I've signed up for a few things there. So there's a networking event that I'm going to next week, which is just about people in creative spaces, creative industries, whether they're like artists, designers, people like me, whatever, they go and they can connect and they can talk about what's going on, they workshop. So I'm excited for that. That'll be really good. I've also signed up I'm also going to this thing, which is local at my local cinema, where it's just people going and watching the movie together, and then go and get a drink afterwards. I think that'll be a fun thing to do, because I love watching movies and I love going for drinks. So, and then there's also a run club that I'm gonna join. So I'm hoping that finding people that are doing similar things to me, going through similar, kind of following similar paths to me, I'm hoping that will kind of reduce the isolation and loneliness that I'm feeling at the moment. And yeah, I think building those connections and being more social is really, it's like, especially if someone coming to a new country, is something that I think is really important. And it's I've known that I needed to do it since I got here, but like I said, I've just kind of lent into what's comfortable and like being on my own and hanging out with my girlfriend, instead of actually going out and seeking these connections. So that's where I'm at. I'm grateful to anyone who's listening to this, and if you kind of like relate to what I'm talking about, this like isolation and loneliness, and I hope that you can understand, you can hear this and know that you're not the only one dealing with things like that, and you can reach out, and there's people out there to connect to. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I never know with these podcasts whether I need to like have like a conclusion at the end where I just bring everything around to a kind of nice rounded end, or make like a point or anything, or if I need to do like a like and subscribe speech like on YouTube. I don't know. I'm still learning at this game. But yeah, this topic has been like the main thing that's been on my mind this week. I've not been in a good place, so I felt like I needed to talk about it. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'll be back next week for another installment of this Diary of Someone. Can't even get my bloody name right. Jesus. I actually only came up with it about 15 minutes before this recording this episode. Went to like Adobe Express and quickly like just did like a little logo thing. Wrote a blurb. So yeah, I mean that'll grow as the podcast grows. Anyway, I think I've rambled for too long now. I'll let you carry on with your day. All the best with your week. Peace out.